Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Well, this week, our Europe editor, James Mate, is spending a fair bit of time on a plane, as you may already have noticed. Yesterday, Canada, tomorrow, Norway, but today, Greenland, of all places, you may say. But the point is, if we do go, we won't be the first. Greenland left the EU in 1985 after a referendum, but on leaving negotiated a deal that gave other EU fishermen some access to its waters. In return, Greenland receives around 50 million euros a year, which is actually more than when they were in the EU. But it's important to remember they have pretty much only one industry, fishing, which makes up more than 95% of all exports to Europe. And they're much, much smaller than the UK. Their population is about 1,000th of our own.
There isn't much that's European about this picturesque corner of the North American continent. And yet, because it's ruled by Denmark, Greenland was once a member of the European Union. A reluctant one. A people who live by fishing and little else. After 10 years of membership of what was then the European Community, they voted to leave, to protect their trawlermen and fish processors from the foreign boats and factory ships that had won the right to work in their waters. But the prawns being unloaded, ready packaged and frozen from this modern trawler will still be sold to Europe. And as Greenland has grown richer, there are some now who regret they're on the outside of their biggest market.
We only had a few trawlers at that time, so we just had to protect ourselves. I think today it's a different story. We need investment.
Would you get more if you were in the EU?
More investment, yes. I think so.
Greenlanders broke free from Brussels, but not from its rules or regulations. The local government here remain content to stay on the outside. There are no plans to try and rejoin, but they're realistic about how free they really are.
Being small has a price, and I guess it shows pretty clear that it will be very difficult, if not impossible, for us to ignore the European regulations. So it will be an impossibility, as I see it.
As the weather turns and the trawler heads back out into the ice floes of Baffin Bay, there are memories of just how difficult it was to do a deal, to keep their access to the giant market across the Atlantic. As Greenland basically only has one industry, fishing, when Greenlanders voted to leave the European Union, there was only one issue to negotiate over: access to their fisheries and the ability to sell their fish in Europe. But even so, those talks were not short. 3 years of tough negotiating to get a deal signed and ratified that just covered fishing. But for those who led the Out campaign in the 1980s, the effort was worth it.
It's not only a question of economy, but it's mostly a question of political autonomy. For us small nations that wanted to opt to stay out was mostly because of our nationalistic wishes.
It is a curious and little-known fact that Greenlanders eat more ice cream per person than anywhere else on Earth. One man here also makes it by hand and tries to sell it to Europe. The sort of diversification this economy needs, but outside the single market, he struggles. How much easier would it be if Greenland itself was part of the European Union?
Very, very, very much easier. Well, then we have all the taxes and everything that is the same, so we don't have any problem.
When fishing represents 90% of your economy, there are clear advantages in controlling your own waters. And comparisons between this tiny country and the UK are few and far between. But people here will tell you life outside is fine, but it has had its costs. James Mate's News at 10, Greenland.
I've been getting away with it all